What's in a name? A concentration of something's essence. About 5,875 years ago, according to the biblical calendar, Adam was given a job. You're not here to work to live for free. You got to work the garden and you have to guard it, God said to him in the beginning of the story. And his job was to give the names to all the things in the garden. So giving of names is the proliferation of identity. Once I know a thing's name, I know its identity. This is called a pine tree. This is called a rose. This is called a human. This is called a leopard. Whatever the thing might be, it has a name that reveals its essence. So the name is the contraction of the essence into sound. And what happens if I disagree with you about your names? Oh, to me, this guy's a terrorist. To you, he's a freedom fighter. So we're fighting about names. Are you willing to give your life for a name? I'm not, except for the name of Jew. For that name, God says, I have to die if they put a gun to my head and tell me to serve the idol, who do certain sins. I got to take the bullet for the name of God. That's what the Torah says. But am I going to die for the name freedom fighter or terrorist? Is anybody that stupid? But to millions of jihadists, they're freedom fighters. And to millions of non-jihadists, they're terrorists. What do you do with that? Where are you in the paradigm of giving names? Because the freedom fighter is a name. It's given to the terrorist. And the terrorist is a name that's given to him because of what he does, which is basically bypass diplomacy for violence. And every morning when we wake up and we read the news, we're sorting through the names. Oh, who's talking? Oh, they're using these set of names. Oh, they're using these set of names. And where does that leave us? In the middle of a big pit. Well, are they freedom fighters or are they terrorists with a fancy label? And you got to talk to the Arabs who understand it, even if they themselves are not terrorists. Got to talk to them and understand where they're holding. They're holding that the land is theirs because they were here. They were here before us, and we're like, no, you weren't. And so then the fight goes back. It's not even names anymore. It's about ownership of land. Isn't that funny? And listen, I have a house, I have land, I have property, and I don't want to give it up. And I'm sure all on these surrounding hills, there's plenty of Muslims that are in the same category. They consider themselves citizens of this land. The Jews came back over the last 200-300 years, maybe perhaps a little longer, of the exile to start to come back to Israel. Friction. That's what we created. But coming back to Israel, we're following God's law, but God's law tells us to enter the fulcrum of friction with the Arabs about the identity of the land and whose it belongs to, and the Jews say it belongs to God. And an Arab will tell you, well, it's God's land if he's honest enough with himself. The whole planet is God's. And he has the right to give it to some people and take it from others. And if we question his wisdom, we're going to get stuck in a maze we will never exit. So if you question God, just remember you're playing God. And if you question his commands, you're playing God. And if you determine that the land doesn't belong to the Jews, it belongs to the Muslims, you're playing God. Are you willing to play God? Do you think you're playing God? Do you recognize that you're superseding the decision-making process of the Bible? Or you're just saying the Bible's not really that holy, it's not really that important, it's not really that relevant. But the Quran is, or, the King James Version is. But we all know. Let's go back to the garden. We're all children in the garden. Remember? 3rd grade, you walk out, it's recess. We leave those boring classes and we go out in the playground and we play. And you remember those times? 2 kids are fighting over one girl, or 2 kids are fighting over one football, or 2 kids are fighting about a nickname that somebody doesn't want to own. I'm not a terrorist, I'm a freedom fighter. And therein begins the violence and the conflict and the evil and the disproportionate amount of energy that goes into this conflict. Millions, maybe billions of people are suffering, and we're worried about these few thousand fighting these few thousand. Seems disproportionate. It seems like everybody cares about himself. And there we come to the root of the human condition. Our selfishness will destroy us. Or our selfishness becomes a fuel. I recognize my selfishness and I take it and I say, no, this is selfish. I'm overweighing the scales to my own side, as opposed to trying to be a person of justice, the middle of the scale. And if a person chooses that choice to seek the middle of the scale, he's on God's team. He's not looking for his own benefit as a terrorist or as a freedom fighter. And we're not going to fight the fight of names and die and let our children die for this appellation of names. We're fighting, as a Jew, we're fighting for a land that was promised to us. How do we know? We have a book. You don't believe in the book? Fine. Don't believe in the book. We believe in the book. And we're willing to die for the book because the book has proved itself a divine transaction with humanity. And if we want to deny that transaction, then you're on your own in the universe, folks. Are you ready for that? Are you a person of faith who lives in chaos? That's not the purpose. The purpose is to turn the chaos to peace. The purpose is to teach us to get along. The purpose is for us to drop names and address the source. So this week and the days that follow, we know things are going to happen, unpleasant things, violent things, because we're in the middle of a war. And it's turning into a very complex war. It's already been. And be careful when you choose a name. And be careful if you call somebody a name. And be careful when you call yourself a name. Because your identity will obviate you to behave in a certain way. It will force you to adopt an agenda that might not be your own. So you got to know yourself really well before you take on somebody else's agenda. God bless you all.